Hi, it's Chase from Furball Fables, and I'm back with another update on the Cole and Marmalade legal case that's currently going on. I asked the Cole and Marmalade fans if they'd like me to go over the documents, and I got a really good response, so I thought it'd be a good time to go over some of them and then go over some of the new things that are going on in the case. I'll put a card up in the top here with a playlist with the first two videos, and then I'll just keep adding to those as time goes on. Thought it would be a good idea to do a timeline. Chris began a business called Digital Pet Media with Stephen Watters and Ed Holden, who were two men with some pretty good e-commerce business experience. Each of them owned 33% of the company. October of last year, Stephen Watters wanted to bring in an investor to the company. So we found out about this investor through an email that's in the new complaint that was filed just recently. This is an email to Jessica from Steve. Not sure if Chris shared our conversation Saturday, but presented an idea on the phone of us all taking something off the table equally versus me selling all of my units. Have a strategic investor who is interested. We're thinking of bringing in a fourth partner, which means then that instead of the 33%, maybe a breakdown of 25%. Jess responded that Chris and I will discuss. And then a few days later, there's an email from Chris saying that he is not really comfortable bringing in another unknown and maybe losing some more of the brand. He asked what DPM was valued at, which I think is a really good question. I'd be curious to know that too. He said even though the investor might be good at things, he could end up being a total nightmare. Chris offered to reach out to some of the people he knew to see if they'd be interested in taking over Steve's shares. And then Chris asked him how much he'd wanted for his 33.3%. So I find that really interesting. So Steve was going to possibly sell his part of the company. In November, DPM wanted to trademark CatMan Chris, which is Chris Poole's other brand. And Chris objected to that and did not want that to happen. I believe there's some information about Chris trying to go ahead and trademark CatMan Chris himself. Steve stopped that from happening. There's some kind of hold on that. Chris then found out about this management fee that was being paid to this company Holden 2 from DPM. And so he started to question Steve and Ed about the finances and why they weren't making any more money. The YouTube channel was immensely popular, as were Facebook and the website, but Chris was not making any additional money to reflect those big numbers. I think that's pretty much when things started to kind of go downhill. We don't really know what happened to escalate things in early December. The communication between everybody broke down. On December 16th, DPM terminated Chris's position with the company. According to the letter that was posted on the Cole and Marmalade website early in March, Jessica was a consultant with the company but had quit working for an extended period of time in December with no communication with them. We required to discontinue her work as a consultant and get that work completed by someone else who was responsive. So she too was terminated. And so obviously things were really going downhill from here. And then 2 days before Christmas, and let me just emphasize, 2 days before Christmas, Steve and Ed filed a lawsuit against Chris Poole. In January of 2020, Chris was served with a summons, of course, about the lawsuit. DPM amended their complaint for the second time. There were 2 emergency motions for temporary injunctions. And the first one basically prevented Chris from posting to any of the social media accounts. And apparently he had done that just once or twice in early January. So the second injunction from the 22nd of January ordered Chris to provide login credentials to Digital, because Digital has accused him of changing all the passwords, even though Chris has disputed that. So Digital and its managers were also ordered in this injunction to retain all profits earned by Digital and to refrain from causing any loss in value to any of the accounts associated with Cole and Marmalade Network. This was in place until they could have a mediation at the end of January. They did have that mediation at the end of January, but unfortunately, nothing was solved. And so the lawsuit continued. February, Chris's lawyers filed a document to dismiss the case because of lack of show of cause. DPM's lawyers requested this crazy list of documents that I don't think would be humanly possible for anyone to put together. And a show of cause hearing was set for April 20th. Now, the big month, of course, was March. That's when a lot happened. Chris posted the GoFundMe post, maybe the night of March 6th. I wasn't aware of it till March 7th. It was really iffy territory because he had this injunction against him where he was not allowed to post to any of the social media accounts. It was posted to Jugg and ZigZag, and then they sent an email around with the post to a number of their friends and some of their associates. And that's how I found out about it. Somebody I know sent it to me. It started just going around. Obviously, it was very viral because it was such big news. And as the fans started to find out about it, they just went crazy. I mean, because Cole and Marmalade obviously are so loved, and it felt so wrong to them. And so the fans, boy, they were fast. I'll tell you, I don't know how they found out who. I guess they looked up Digital Pet Media. They found out who the two partners were, and before we knew it, apparently the two partners were getting all sorts of threats. I guess they were contacting them through the Cole and Marmalade website. It just was going around like crazy. There were some Facebook groups that were formed, but there was so much misinformation. Nobody really kind of knew what was happening. We had a little bit of an idea, but not really. We didn't really see the whole picture, so we didn't know who was in charge of what. Was Chris still in charge of the websites? We didn't know any of this information about that I've been telling you guys about the injunctions or what had happened with the two partners, really, other than what was in the GoFundMe. In some ways, it did seem a little misleading because we didn't have all the details. Chris wasn't really allowed to tell us all the details, so he was really in a catch-22. The following day, Sunday, March 8th, Chris filed a lawsuit against DPM. Then on Monday, March 9th, all the Cole and Marmalade websites were taken down by DPM because of all the threats that they were getting from the fans, and also to protect their assets because fans were mass unsubscribing to Facebook, to YouTube, to Instagram. Fans were mad because they didn't really know all the details, so they were accusing Steve and Ed of having stolen the brand from Chris. It was really a mess. Also on Monday, March 9th, anyone that was subscribed to the Cole and Marmalade website got an email from them disputing what was said in the GoFundMe. They also say in this letter to Cole and Marmalade subscribers that Chris would have been more transparent on facts and commented when he saw the false statements being made by the cat community. Particularly wish Chris would have spoken up and stopped members of the community that were threatening our families with physical violence. Steve and Ed, I believe there was an injunction against Chris for speaking publicly on any of the social media sites. So that really wasn't possible, was it? He really had no way to speak up about it. I want to have a little aside here and say we really haven't heard anything from Ed Holden. And Ed, if you're watching, we realize this. It all seems to be coming from Steve Watters. On the same day, March 9th, there was an affidavit from Steve Watters where he accuses the GoFundMe post of being full of misleading statements, falsities, and admissions, which portray Digital and the Cole and Marmalade Network in a very negative light. He says, for instance, in the post, Poole, in December 2019, the company eliminated Chris's position. Well, this is false, according to Steve, but we've already seen it in a number of places that we do know that Chris was terminated from the company. Yes, we understand that he was still 1/3 partner in the company, but he was terminated from his position as the content manager and creator. The same day, March 9th, emergency motion filed whether Chris should be held in contempt of court. Chris was hauled into court, I believe, the next day. The judge was presented with all this material about the GoFundMe, according to the affidavit by Steve, that Chris should be ordered to apologize, which they wanted to approve that apology, and they wanted that apology posted on all platforms. The apology should contain a statement that the original GoFundMe was misleading and false. The court found that Chris did not intend to mislead the public or violate the temporary injunction, but they also found that Chris should publish and distribute a revised comment to the same audience that corrects some of the statements that may have been misleading. The motion was denied in terms of a contempt citation as long as Chris fully cooperated. They very carefully told Chris what he had to say in his statement and where it should be posted. So Chris went ahead and did post that letter March 17th. He was in compliance, and so he was good with the court. March 26th, there were some objections for the first request from production. Right after the GoFundMe letter of apology was posted, the Cole and Marmalade websites, the YouTube page, the Facebook page, etc., were all reactivated. March the 27th, DPM filed a motion to amend their complaint for the third time. This complaint was different from the first two. We found out about the investor, and we also found out that Digital Pet Media had terminated Holden 2's services in mid-December. This new amended complaint is really just trying to show that they own the Cole and Marmalade network, which includes CatMan Chris and Jugg and ZigZag. Interestingly, Furry Tales Cat Cafe is not part of this new complaint. In April, there was a notice of the April 20th hearing because of the coronavirus had been changed to a telephone Zoom meeting, but then Chris's counsel requested that a continuance for that hearing to be postponed, and the court did go ahead and grant that. And so that hearing will have to be rescheduled sometime in the next 60 days. I think I might come back to this third amended complaint in another video once I hear how Chris's side responds to it. I believe there'll be a lot more activity coming up in the next month or so. I did want to say that Chris Poole is still out there rescuing cats. He has rescued quite a few cats in the last month or so. And so I'm so happy that he's able to do that and continue doing his TNR and rescue work. Jessica has been posting a lot to Instagram and Facebook, showing us her beautiful garden, and as well has loaded up her shop at Etsy, Accessorati, with just lots and lots of beautiful products. So please go check her out. I'll put the link to her accounts in the description of this video. So I wanted to thank you all for watching. I know this was kind of a long video. It was pretty painful for me to have to put it together. Hopefully we won't have anything quite this involved in the future, but please stay tuned because there will be more videos coming up. Subscribe to this channel so you're notified of those videos. I would also encourage you to check out some Furball Fable videos. So thank you all for watching, and we'll be back as soon as we have another update.